Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Remember when entertainment was actually entertaining? When comedy was about being funny, movies were about telling great stories, and you didn't need a political lecture every time you hit play. Great entertainment still exists, it's just getting harder to find. Even the biggest streaming platforms leave audiences disappointed. That's why there's Studio TST, pure entertainment, real comedy, independent films, bold creators, movies, comedy, music, and more, and the home of fearless sketch comedy. That show tonight, entertainment the way you want it. Funny, creative, unapologetic, and agenda-free. Studio TST, the future of entertainment starts here. Join Studio TST today for just $5 a month.
Hi everyone, this is JJ, the co-founder of GoodPods. If you haven't heard of it yet, GoodPods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On GoodPods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find GoodPods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of He Said, She Said. I am one of your hosts for this evening, Aggie, and with me is the very awesome, rowdy Rick. How are you doing tonight?
Don't tell these people I'm awesome. You're going to set expectations I can't deliver.
I know.
I'm just saying. All right. Now I'm doing all right. It's been a crazy kind of day because, you know me, I always complain about how much work I do, and then I voluntarily put more work on my plate.
Yeah. I get it. I get it. I've been doing the same thing, but it's not work. It's more of a as we covered during our what we do for our anxiety episode. I've been cross stitching a lot, so I asked a few people who saw my little bookmark and says, "Hey, would you like one?" And yes, apparently a lot of people want them. So I've been cross stitching all of this week. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. But then I start doing it and it makes me feel good. So I put more on my plate, but it was good stuff that I put on my plate. So
fun times. So, I'm just I know we don't usually talk about this stuff, so I don't want to talk about it for very long, but I have to put this out here because something has not been sitting right with me today when Trump put out the post about not going to his son's wedding. And then not only did he not go to his son's wedding, he canceled a speaking event and told everybody he was staying in DC. I just saw a story that broke that apparently they have discovered that one of his children was targeted by the Iranian IRGC. So I think they may have done fucked up.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Sounds like
I
it.
think they may have just crossed the Rubicon, so to speak, because yeah, that just broke like 36 minutes ago, and I'm like, yeah, if it's just breaking now, then he's known for a while, and yeah, I have a feeling things about to go boom. Anyway,
Well, I a lot of people. This is drama, not politics, but his son is getting married, but it's a destination wedding to a different country. Okay, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is not a Commonwealth of the U.S. It's a Commonwealth of Great Britain. So it is a completely different country. Yes, you have to have your passport, blah, 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 blah. It would be a logistical nightmare for the president to show up for this wedding. And that is something that I don't think the Bahamas were equipped to do, because this would be like a last minute thing. And so I'm 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 okay with him saying, yeah, you know what, when you get back, we'll have a little party here at the White House, hopefully at the ballroom. But
now see,
I don't know.
that part wasn't what bothered me. The part that bothered me was he's not even going to the White House South for the weekend as he normally does.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And now I'm seeing reports that Iranian airspace has been completely emptied.
Okay. Well, now. Ah,
Remember
I
that?
don't.
Remember that toy we had when we were kids to try to segue to the topic, the
Uh-huh.
glowworm. Yeah,
Yes.
glowworm. Remember those? I think they were preparing us for moments like this in case we went going in the dark.
Man, that was actually really cool. I love the commercial for that one. That was so pretty. And I wanted one, but I had a little glow in the dark star in my room and it freaked me out. I knew I would not react very well to this thing. So my parents said no. In hindsight, they knew what they were doing. No to the
Yeah,
glowworm. But yeah,
yeah.
so
My kid brother had one. My parents said I was too old for one. Sure.
I for some here's the weird thing. My daughter has gotten me into this new nail polish. Well, it's not new. I mean, it's been around for a few years, but it's new for me. And the nail polish brand is Mooncat, and they have several nail polish colors that glow in the dark. She loves them. She loves the fact that they glow in the dark. Personally speaking, a glow in the dark nails would probably freak me out because I'm still in that stage where there's a monster under my bed and my feet have to be tucked into the blanket. Okay? And the blanket has to be over my ear because that way they cannot get to me. I've been like that since I was 4 or 5.
Nice.
But yeah, so yeah, nice segue into tonight's topic, which is kind of, it's gonna be fun. I'm sure everybody's gonna join in and talk about their stuff. So we're
Things
make it
that
look
were better
better.
when we were kids. The first thing I thought of when I thought of this topic. You remember how big Little Debbie oatmeal cream pies used to be?
I know how big they are in my kitchen. They're kind of small now, but yeah.
Yeah, but they used to be like the size of my face when I was a kid.
Yeah, they were huge. They used to be big.
Yeah. And then everybody tried to convince you that wasn't the thing, right? And then a couple years ago, they put out what they now call the extra large Little Debbie
The
oatmeal
extra
cream
large
pies
was the regular size.
that are the size they were before, but now you're calling them extra large. So yeah, thank you for trying to Mandela affect my brain, but you just proved to me that they used to be bigger. Just saying. But yeah, so that was one of the first things I thought of was how much cooler snacks were when we were kids. Like, when's the last time you saw anybody eating a fruit roll up? Dude, those things were amazing. Healthy, probably not much, but I don't really see them being offered anywhere anymore.
No, I don't either. And they were touted as a friendly food, because it was basically supposed to be dried fruit. But when you read the box, it's not just dried fruit. But I remember my mom would give that to my brother like it was, water. I mean, here all the time. She would run like through 3 boxes a week of these fruit roll up things for my brother, and I suppose he got his vitamin C out of it. I don't know, but I haven't seen them lately. No, not really.
I mean, it's just weird how much different things were when we were kids. Like I remember when I was a kid, and the first time my parents took me to McDonald's, and actually, because I mean, honestly, when I first started going to McDonald's, there was no such thing as a Happy Meal yet, but they always made me get the little tiny cheeseburgers. So then they got the Happy Meals, and I became a big fan of their chicken nuggets. So I started getting those all the time. Then when I got big enough where they let me actually order like, an actual adult sandwich, and I got my first Big Mac, there was more meat on that bitch. Where'd the meat go? I just started to understand the Wendy's commercials a couple months later that came out shortly thereafter. It was like, where's the beef? I don't know, because it was there 5 minutes ago.
Oh, Clara, God bless her heart. She was so cute. That was an epic commercial. I gotta say, it ranks up there with one of the classic commercials of all time.
Well, that's just
That
it. Commercials were even more cool when we were kids.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they
I
were.
mean, now some of them were definitely like taking a running, flying leap at that line that they're not supposed to cross. Like I've seen a couple that I was like, I had to double. I was like, I had to double check. I was like, was this an actual commercial or is this somebody trying to do something funny? And I wish I still had them because I'd be playing them right now because of how bad they were. But yeah, there were just some really, really like just not cool ones. I mean, funny, but I can't believe with as finicky as everybody used to be about what was allowed on TV. I can't believe they've made them pass censors and stuff.
Oh yeah.
They were just right on the nose. But
No, my favorite commercials were the ones that we still lampoon today. This is I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV, and God love him, he's still around. You know? He's on The Young and the Restless.
I had a T-shirt when I was in college made that says "I'm not a doctor, but I play one in your dorm room."
Oh my. I kid you not. There were a lot of interesting t-shirts that I saw on campus when I was going to college, and I can guarantee you 75% of what they said, I did not understand until like 5 years after I left college. I was that naive, and
Surprising no one here.
nobody's surprised. Let's face it, no one's surprised. But yeah, things were, and we're speaking as Gen Xers, admittedly, but even today, there's you're starting to see a lot of the millennials and Generation Z actually appreciate the older stuff. Now, I'll be right there. I appreciate the older stuff. I'm a vintage maven. I have stuff in my house that was made before I was born, and I have some stuff that was made before my father was born. And so, I do appreciate older vintage stuff, older antiques, things of that nature. But for Gen Z, what they're appreciating is the stuff that we always had, because there was no social media, there was no computer, there was no the whole rotary telephone thing fascinates Gen Z to the point that it makes me very, very surprised. I mean, I've my niece, she's 22, and she asked me to be on the lookout for a rotary phone, a princess style rotary phone. She saw an ad in she was on Instagram. She saw an ad that was being displayed as in, one of those retro accounts or something, and it showed an AT&T ad of a young lady on a froofy bed talking on the phone, and it was a princess phone, and she fell in love with it. And she told me, "Aunt Aggie, please be on the lookout for one." I own one, and I refuse to give it up because I've always wanted a princess phone. Okay. But out of the goodness of my heart, I told her, "Sure, I'll be on the lookout." And I asked her, "Do you want rotary or do you want push button?" And she was like, "Well, what's the difference?" And I'm like, "Seriously? The rotary, it's a wheel, but the push button, you just push the buttons." Oh, okay. Yeah, the push buttons would probably be better. And actually, the push button would probably be better because rotary is all analog. So you can receive calls, but you cannot dial out. But the push button, you can still dial out. So I told her, yes, I'll be on the lookout. And then like 3 days later, if it's pink, it'd be even better. I'm like, okay, you cannot be that choosy because Princess phones are hard to come by. but,
Yeah,
but
now that everything. Oh,
she's
sorry.
she's just fascinated with old technology. She's fascinated with having those touches around in her room that are nostalgic for something that she never had, but her mom did, you know. And it's very sweet that she wants those things. And I mean, I have a friend who um he's going back to the dot matrix printer. And I'm like, isn't it hard to come by the ink and all that stuff? And he's like, you can still find it. There's still people making dot matrix. It's just that we got so used to the inkjet because it's clearer and it's better. But he doesn't want to be connected to the internet anymore. So he wants a dot matrix. And so I was like, okay. And then he tells me that several of his friends are interested in dot matrix. And so, and these are people that work outside of Dell in Austin, and they're looking for dot matrix. They're hearkening back to lesser technology. So there's a move to actually look at, the older stuff as being more nostalgic, but also less invasive of in our lives. And I think that's why a lot of people look at stuff from back then and say, yeah, it was a lot cooler. But that said, it was a lot cooler back in the 80s because it was just more fun.
Well, I got to say, when you had to write a term paper and you had a dot matrix printer, there was something so much more satisfying about hitting the print button when it was. Now it's just bzz, and it's done, and I'm like, that was anticlimactic.
No, but I think that there's a drive to get these things back. I want to say, was it New Yorker or New York? Some magazine out of New York was talking about how one of the best snacks is saltines with margarine on it. I'm like, that's what we ate when we were little. What are you talking about? This is a great snack now. And that's
It was a
making
great
comeback.
snack before.
Oh no. And there was this write-up about, Gen Z is discovering how to leave stuff behind and go for walks. And I'm like, seriously, you put the phone down, you go outside and you walk, and that's a new thing? Since when is that a new thing? Well, since Gen Z has grown up connected to the internet. I mean, they're the first generation that has been wholly dependent on the internet and social media and smartphones and, all of those.
Well, and you also have to remember part of their formative years were spent, you couldn't be around anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
So there was that too. And now for them to go outside without any connectivity whatsoever, it's kind of like, oh my goodness, what? And I'm like, just imagine that you're going to the restroom and you put your phone down to go to the restroom, except this is a longer walk and there was no restroom at the end of it. I mean, that's pretty much what it is, right? But a lot of people take their phones to the restroom. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a good one. But yeah, so but growing up there, and I have the experience of having grown up in two different cultures because for the first 10 years I grew up in Puerto Rico, and then the second decade I grew up here in Texas. So there are differences in how we grew up and the things that we liked, that was things that were better when we were little, like the monkey bars. I mean, the monkey bars were great. And the thought that you could die at any minute, that motivated you to actually pay attention.
Seriously, though, I mean, we talk about this all the time. I mean, everybody talks about back when the slides were like 20 feet tall and metal, and it didn't matter if it was 120 degrees outside, you were still sliding down the bitch. Now, you might have lost 3 or 4 layers of skin on the way down, but you still slid down it. It seems, I mean, we didn't need TV shows like American Ninja Warrior. We created them in the playground.
Oh man. I remember the first time that I saw a playground because where I grew up there were no playgrounds the way they have them here. Um, we had totally different thing. I mean, it's swing sets in a backyard, that was one thing, but an actual public playground with places for kids to actually jump around and play and do all these stuff. No, we didn't really have that in my hometown. So the first time that I saw one, there was the Wheel of Death. There were seesaws, the monkey bars, and there were these giant space saucers that you could climb into, and a giant, you know, it's a giant when we were little, but not really now. Okay, like a castle, and you could climb up in there and just pretend that you're in a castle and all that stuff. And of course, the metal slide that could just fry your skin as you're running that. But I mean, we were like, my dad had so much fun taking us to the park, which was right down the street from our first home here in Texas, because we were so fascinated with everything that was on there. All he had to do was sit down and just let us run around. And it didn't matter if we got hurt or not. He would say, "Get up." And we'd get up, dust ourselves off, and keep going. But yeah, I remember, being in a playground. There was no soft stuff. It was gravel or dirt. It wasn't even on. There was no grass. It was all either gravel or dirt. I mean, I'm remembering that correctly, right?
I mean, I think so. Sorry, I'm getting caught up on the chat. Ordy's throwing shade at Dot Matrix printers. I still like the noise. I'm just saying, I still like the noise.
But yeah. Yes, Ordy, some people do put their phones down because of the restroom. Anyway.
I mean, I really didn't need to hear that some of his best bangers are on the toilet, though. No, didn't even know it. Nope.
Well, it's
Thanks for sharing, though. Thanks for sharing, though. Anyway.
Anyway, but yeah, that playground was like the be all and end all for us, and I it was the only thing that helped my mom to adjust, because when we first came here, it was very abrupt for my mom, and she had to deal with four young daughters, as well as adjusting to a new place, and she had no friends. There was no family. And so there were times that mom needed her quiet time, and my dad, right after he got off of work, he would come gather us all up and take us to the park for an hour. And mom could, cook in peace, or, do her crocheting or do something for herself for that hour. And um, that park saved my mom's sanity. I cannot tell you. But yeah, I mean, the Wheel of Death was awesome. We would, all four of us. Now, keep in mind, when I first got here, I was 9.5, and then my sister was 7. No, she was 8, and then the next one was 4, and the next one was 2, and we would all get up there, and the 2-year-old was in the middle. Okay, and then the rest of us were out, and my dad would like start, just spinning that thing, and we would all scream, and it was great and everything. And then he would tell us to jump. And of course, the 2 little ones never jumped, but the 2 big ones did. And I cannot tell you how many times I scraped my knees because of that. But I mean, I cannot tell you. I didn't care, and my sister didn't care. It was just a lot of fun. Getting hurt was fun because it showed that you were out there, you were doing something, you were being active, and you had the freedom to do that. No, I'm not talking about serious injury, obviously, but scraping your knee, or your elbow, or breaking your nail when you were, picking up rocks to throw at your sister. I can neither confirm nor deny if that happened, but things of that nature. You were free to do all of these things. It was a certain freedom when you were playing out there on that playground. And that has been actually taken away. They've taken away the gravel, they put the soft stuff on it, they've taken away the monkey bars. Everything that is there is designed to prevent any injury. And that's sad because kids need to figure out what hurts and what doesn't. They learn this way, you know?
Yeah. So, I was thinking about that whole, you saying how hard it was for your mom to adjust. I have a feeling it could have had something to do with a 9-year-old going, "Mommy, mommy, mira su cráneo." Yeah. She was probably wondering for a minute if you were going serial killer or another direction.
Wasn't that bad. But, like I said, I do miss that. I miss the old playgrounds. And, when I was back home um, with my mom, dropping her off, and after she stayed up here with us, I took a swing by and to go see the playground. And they had removed a lot of stuff and it was replaced with more safe items. The slide was now plastic and it was enclosed, and everything on the ground was the cushy stuff, and the monkey bars were gone. And when I say the monkey bars, I'm talking about that cubic monstrosity that was, about 10 feet tall and 8 feet in every direction. And it was just, cubist hell. But it was awesome. I loved climbing on that thing. It was great. you know. And that was gone, and that was replaced by something a lot shorter that you can, grab the rungs and then swing across, that one of those.
Yeah.
But instead of being tall, it was short enough that um it was for very small kids, as opposed to, like 3 feet off, 3 feet tall, because it was about 5 feet off the ground. So I was like, well, what's the point of this? And there was one that was like a half circle, and it had rungs all the way up on top. And the trick was to climb it up and keep climbing, but like you're crawling up on top, and then as you're going down, you're climbing downwards. Well, they took that away too. And I was like, who got hurt on this? Well, apparently some people fell on their heads or something. I don't know. So they took that away. But things of that nature, I do think they should make a comeback. Um, there was, as an aside, there was a study done in Australia where they took away all of the safety features in a playground at a school. And they brought back the gravel, they brought back the monkey bars, they brought back the slide of death and the wheel of death. And the incidence of bullying dropped 80% because kids were actually getting themselves hurt out there, and they understood what pain was when it happened to them. Nobody else was inflicting it. They were inflicting it upon themselves, and they learned what pain was. And so a lot of the schools in Australia started removing all those things. Well, then came the new prime minister, who happened to be very liberal, and said, no, this is for the safety of our children. And they brought back all of the safety stuff. And so much for that. But that study, I still remember that study being done. And I remember that it was true. I mean, I'm not saying that there was no bullying when I was growing up. There was obviously bullying, but the incidence of bullying was a lot less when you were injuring yourself and understood what pain was, rather than now where you have learned to hurt others without any consequence.
Well, the other thing that happened a lot when we were kids is you would have this game happen in gym class every so often, the game of dodgeball. And all of the kids that were getting beat up by the one kid would gang up and just pummel the shit out of him with the little red ball so that he knew what it felt like. So, yeah. I may or may not have helped orchestrate that more than once. Luckily, statute of limitations has expired.
So anyway, but there are other things that were also cool growing up. I love the fact that I could drink water out of a hose without the worry of, oh my God, I'm going to get sick from bacteria. I didn't even know what
Or,
bacteria was, okay, at the
or
time.
like,
Or what.
the neighbor lady across the street going, "Oh my God, don't drink out of that. You're going to die."
And I just like, I can't. I can't. But I remember being at my sister's house when she first got married. This was in Dallas. She lived in an apartment actually. And I was babysitting my niece. She was just a year old. And we were outside and there was a hose available because the gardeners leave the hoses, attached or whatever. And she was thirsty. So I went to the hose and I turned it on. And I said, "You can drink from it." And she started drinking. My sister comes down and sees her and she totally flips out. And I'm like, "What is wrong?" And she says, "How could you do this?" And I'm like, "How could I do what?" She was thirsty. I gave her water. You want her to get dehydrated? And she says, "No, out of the hose? You don't do that to a child." And I looked at her, I was like, "What the hell do you think we did when we were little?" Do you think that mom let us go inside and drink water? We weren't allowed to go back inside once we were outside. We had to fend for ourselves.
Dude, the
But
hose water, especially on a really hot day, the hose water, when you let it run long enough that it actually cooled off and then you got that first drink, there was nothing better. Nothing.
oh yeah,
Nothing.
that was so great. And yeah, I admit I still do it. I still do it. And yes, I let all the hot water run first. You're not gonna get me to scald myself. And then, I drink it and it's fine. I am still here. I had a checkup. I have no bacteria growing in me. Well, no outsider
You have
bacteria.
good bacteria,
I have the good
probably.
bacteria, yeah. But I mean, and I looked at her. I was like, "What happened to you? Did something eat your brain?" Because,
Well, yeah, she's been hermetically sealed, so she goes outside and suddenly some sort of placebo is eating her
but
brain.
I have to admit, moms do this all the time. When I was a new mom, I was like so afraid that I was going to mess up. Okay, that I was going to do something that would injure my child. So I totally get it. But she was like almost a year and a half old, I think she was at the time, and then she was fine. Goodness sake, shake it off.
So speaking of things that were better when we were kids, I saw something the other day that I kind of feel like might be a Mandela effect because I don't know if you've seen the commercials for it, but Henry Winkler has a new show now talking about how the things that we didn't have when we were kids growing up have led to improved safety features like things like helmets and knee pads and all this stuff. And he's given this list of things we did when we were kids, and I recognize like 99% of them. Then he's talking about ostrich racing and how we did it without helmets and knee pads. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro?
Ostrich raising?
Yes, racing. Like actually,
Racing, like getting on an
yeah,
ostrich
like
and
actually racing on an ostrich. Yes. I don't know where Henry Winkler grew up, but now I have questions.
I have a lot of questions because I know that's done in Australia, but it's not common here, and it certainly wasn't common when we were growing up.
I barely knew what an ostrich was when we were growing up. We go to the zoo, be like, oh, giant bird, ostrich. Okay, cool. Now I've seen one. Didn't know what it was before I went to the zoo, other than, like textbooks and shit. So, yeah, when he did the rest of it, because he's all like, and we didn't have seatbelts, and we didn't have this, and we didn't have that. And we do now because of hindsight. And now ostrich racing is so much safer. I'm like, ostrich racing? What? What? What?
Ostrich racing. Okay. Well, to each their own. Uh, you know, one of the things that I do miss growing up, and I kind of have it here now to a certain degree, but it wasn't something that's very common where I grew up here in Texas. And I might dare say most of our listeners, it's not something that they grew up with. When I was in elementary school, the school that I went to was an inclusive school. So it had elementary, intermediate, and high school all together, all in the same campus. But because the school was kind of small, we had to rent rooms from other people. Remember my second grade story about going to the man's funeral upstairs? Because
Yeah.
okay. So they rented the bottom part, and that was the second graders. Okay. Fourth grade was actually at the cockfighting ring down the street. I kid you
Well,
not. So the way this worked was the cockfights were only every other Saturday. There were cockfights. And so during the weekdays, they would install partitions. So the cockfighting rink was partitioned into fourths. So that you had your social studies, science, mathematics, and Spanish. English was actually a separate room, which was where the announcers would sit. Okay. Oh, I remember him. And yes, I did that.
yep.
I did
Yeah.
that.
I remember those commercials. I mean, I don't really know if they even counted as commercials. They were more like PSAs, but yeah, I did
They
that.
were just like a little thing for the kids to do, keep them happy or something. But anyway, the one of the awesome things about this particular cockfighting rink, it was right behind it was the river. Okay. So during recess, we didn't have any, like I said, there were no um places for us to play. There was no park. There was nothing except dirt. So, and the river. And we would all go down to the river and we would try catching fish with our hands. And if we caught any fish, the teachers had pails, and we would take the pails down with us and we would keep the fish and then take it home. I mean, when I say that I'm hillbilly, Puerto Rican hillbilly, I am not kidding here, okay? And but one of the best things that we would do, we would swim in the river during recess. Our recess was 20 minutes, and if, you know, the girls, we all wore um uniforms. In Puerto Rico, all schools have uniforms. Public has solid colors, private has plaids, and that's how you could tell. So the girls would wear an extra shirt and shorts underneath their uniforms, and they would take off the uniforms, go swimming in the river. We would all swim. And I miss that. That was one of the greatest things. We kept our shoes on though, because there was a high incidence of bilharzia, and that is a parasite. Once it's inside you, it's like luggage. You can't get rid of it. So we kept our shoes on when we were in the river, but we would go swimming in the river. The trick was you had to get out about 10 minutes before, so you had time to dry off, and then you could put your uniform back on and go back to class. Well, one time my best friend Hector completely forgot about the time. I was busy playing baseball with a couple of other friends. Well, stick and a rock. We didn't have equipment, but he went to go fishing and he did not hear us telling him 10 minutes. So we all go back to class, and the teacher's ringing the bell, old fashioned school bell. We all go back to class, and my best friend walks in totally drenched. My teacher, God love her, looks at him and says, "I'd like to see you after class."
Dun dun dun.
Yes. And she didn't do anything. She just told him, "You need to pay attention to the time." And this is how awesome it was growing up in that area, because she was not mad that he went swimming. She just told him, "You need to pay attention to the time." Okay. There was no lifeguard. There was no teacher overseeing anybody. It was our responsibility. If something happened to one of the kids there, So that's one of the things that I miss from back home is the ability that wholesomeness, that freedom to actually go and swim in a river during recess. How awesome is that?
It's kind of awesome. Speaking of awesome, who remembers when your pudding snack pack showed up in these things?
I remember, and anybody who has seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure should remember as well. And those were great. Those were great. And even better if you got the Nestle Toll House chocolate chips and threw some in there, extra chocolate.
See, now you're just being bougie, but that does sound really good though.
But I don't know. It was man, that was a lot of fun. See, and now that I have a lake access, guess who does not go into the lake? Me.
You.
Why? Because the last time that I went into the lake, something nipped at me, and I happened to look, and there was this huge turtle looking back at me like, "Are you dinner?" And I was like, "Fuck this, I am out."
Oh, look, you brought me a snack pack. Yay!
So yeah, it's now that's an example of something, an experience that I had growing up that you don't find over here, but you also don't find over there anymore. Um, that most kids are like, yeah, no, we're not going in the river. We have phones. So, you know, it's sad, but it's true. What are other things that we
So
have?
again, I'm not saying everything was better when we were younger, but I'm kind of saying everything was better when we were younger because you can't see things like Marquis Post in a bikini anymore.
Wow, she
Yeah,
was something.
she
It's
was
sad.
too.
John Larroquette is the only one that's left alive from Night Court.
Only one of them.
The only
Only
one.
one of them. But yeah. Funny thing is, he's still acting too. He's
Yeah,
been involved in the Librarian series now for a long time.
he came back for the Night Court reboot with the daughter, Harry's daughter, being the judge.
Yeah, that didn't last very long.
But it didn't last long. No.
Because they did what they always do with this stuff, and they made it just dumb, and everybody was like, "Yeah, we don't want it."
Well, the thing is, that's another thing that was great growing up was Night Court because the jokes there, the things they talked about, the things that were serious, and they poked fun at and everything. You can't do that anymore. You just can't. It
I
was
mean,
like
well, that's just it. Everybody's so serious about everything now. You can't even if you tried to make fun of anything. The only thing you're allowed to make fun of now is Donald Trump, and that's just mostly stupid anyway.
oh yeah. So, but I don't know, as far as toys go, you're not going to believe what I found in an estate sale, and it
What did
kind
you
of
find?
a light bright in its box.
Oh yeah, I got my granddaughter one of those not too long ago. The newer ones, they're not as cool, but she loved it till she stopped keeping up with the pieces, and I got tired of picking up after her.
I got a light bright. Um, my my parents got it at a garage sale. It was complete, and so my parents got that, and I got that for I think it was my 10th birthday, and my sisters were like, "Can we play? Can we play? Can we play?" And I was like, "No." And then my mom said, "You're not gonna share?" I said, "It's literally my birthday gift." I was so mad because they wanted to play with it before I got to play with it. That was my issue. I wanted to play with it first. It was my gift. Then I explained it to mom and I explained it to dad, and my parents were, this is true. It's only fair that she get to play with it first. And so I did. I got to play with it. And my sister was with, the second sister number two. And she's there. And she's like, "You're doing it wrong. You're supposed to put it here." Because, it came with these little black papers that had the little patterns on it. And that's how you you did all that. You did the design and then you turned it on and And so my dad, instead of buying the paper with the grid patterns, because you could buy the extra, he would take black construction paper and go through the trouble of making patterns myself. And I never knew that that's what he did until I'm going to the attic and getting all my old toys down for my niece to play with, and there's the light bright, and I noticed the difference in the paper. And I noticed that the patterns are not professional. They're just, they're hand drawn. And it hit me that my dad went through that trouble to do that for me. And I was like, I can't let her play with this. This is too special.
So
But
speaking of cool things from our childhood, I think I just figured out what I'm buying myself for my birthday.
a light bright?
No, there's a radio-controlled Airwolf helicopter on Amazon for $55.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
You gotta get that. You gotta get that. That would be so cool. That would be I mean,
I'm so
and
getting,
think
I'm
about
so
it, it's
getting
kind of like
myself that.
having a drone, but no, different. But
It's a cooler drone. 'cause
it's a
it looks
cooler
awesome.
drone. It really is.
Yeah, somebody was talking about it the other day because they found a little diecast one in a Walmart somewhere. So I went to Amazon and looked. They have a diecast one for $15, but it looks dumb. I'm like, for $55, I can get one that actually looks like Airwolf and I can fly it. Haha. I call that winning. Anyway. But yeah, no, I mean, and funny thing is I found all kinds of stuff too. Like apparently there's like a replica of the A-Team van that I didn't know was a thing for like $32. There's all kinds of stuff from TV shows that I didn't know Amazon had. That was actually kind of cool. They even have a Blue Thunder one for $20.
Oh man.
I mean,
That
it
was
doesn't
another
say
thing.
it doesn't say Blue Thunder. It just says Army Police Helicopter. But if you look, it's blue and it
It's
looks
blue.
exactly like Blue
Okay.
Thunder from the day.
It's funny because I remember both TV shows. That's another cool thing. When we were growing up, the TV shows were just like primo.
Well, the thing that pisses me off about that today is half the stuff that they try to reboot, and they're like, we're bringing back nostalgia, and then they try to make it like stupid campy. Like when they brought back Starsky and Hutch and made it retarded, I was like, why would you do that? And then they brought back the A-Team and made it kind of more. I mean, A-Team was kind of campy already anyway, but they made it stupid campy. So I mean, and they even did it with the Dukes of Hazzard. Because yeah, I don't know why they have to do that.
I don't either. I guess it's we've discussed this before. There are no original. Everything that's original goes contrary to the wokeness and what people want to put out there because they think it's politically correct. So it doesn't get done, which is sad. And the sad part is I'm seeing it in books too. And it's very disheartening to see that in print. I went to a bookstore. One of my favorite bookstores is actually the Headless Apothecary. And it's in a nearby town. I think that's the name, Headless Apothecary. But and she's got all sorts of weird stuff, but she carries a lot of, and it tends to be more feminist type of books, smash the patriarchy, some of that stuff. But the really pretty books are reprints of old standards. And I was talking to her. I said, "What are your biggest sellers?" And she says, "All of the classics are my biggest sellers." And I was like, "You serious?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, then why do you stock this?" And she's like, "Well, it's the stuff that I like and blah blah blah." And I was like, "Okay, that figures. It is her store, so she stocks what she likes." And when I say store, it's a room. It's a room in a antique mall. Okay, so it's very small, but she says it's all of the old classics. Wuthering Heights. Yes, I did buy myself a really pretty tome of D.H. Lawrence, Lady Chatterley's Lover, and she had Edgar Allan Poe, and she had Billy Budd, And she was like, it's really weird. I've actually sold 10 of these. And I was like, Billy Budd has got to be one of the most boring books on the planet, but it gets sold. So she, so, and she admits that she has seen that trend as well, where the stuff that we used to read back in the 80s, honestly, I don't think Robert Ludlum would actually be as popular today had he started writing today. I don't think he would have gotten even published. Even though the Byrne Supremacy, the Byrne Legacy, all of those made really big hits. If you read the books, they kind of deviated a bit from the books when they made the films, because they made the films decades after the books came out. So, in my opinion, I don't think his stuff would be written today, which is sad.
Yeah, probably not. But that's, again, we can't have nice things anymore.
No.
But part of it, I mean, we talked about it already. It's like, these kids think they're reinventing the wheel because they figured out how to put down a phone and go outside. I mean, that's like Amish and I did an entire show about the fact that, Gen Z is throwing a fit about being told to make a sandwich instead of paying $28 for lunch.
I kind of understand that the inflation has not kept up with the cost of living, or vice versa rather. And I get that they do have some hardships, but they act like Gen X had it a lot easier, and boomers had a lot easier, and the silent generation had a lot easier. And I'm like, does no one remember the Depression? Admittedly, I don't. But my father was born in 32, and my hometown in Puerto Rico was not a tourist trap by any stretch of the imagination. So it was relatively a poor area. So imagine that being hit with the Depression as well. He remembers, and my grandmother remembered, and my other grandmother remembered vividly, and she would always throw that in our faces growing up. You didn't have to live through the Depression, so eat your soup. I mean, it's like whatever she made, we had to eat because we did not live through the Depression, so we didn't know. Instead of the starving kids in China, we got the Depression bit. Okay, so and admittedly, I didn't go through the Depression either or anything like that, but we are in a better place financially as a society than we were back 100 years ago, admittedly. And I guess we have the wherewithal to have plenty of delivery options and plenty of ordering options. And we have HelloFresh, and we have, Farmer's Dog, and we have this and everything that you can subscribe to. And I'll give you my brother as an example. He used to get HelloFresh all the time because he felt, I'm not going to have time to go grocery shopping, and he was just recently married. And so they had a subscription to HelloFresh and all that. And one day she sat down and she started doing the comparison shopping. And she was like, we can just buy a book of recipes and go grocery shopping once a week, and it's cheaper than getting this. And we would have leftovers, and we would have leftovers to take for work as lunch. I mean, she figured it out, and she's a millennial, and she managed to figure that out. And right now we have, the youngest generation that's out there. They're like, paying $28. What was it? $28 for lunch?
Well, yeah, $28 for lunch and $10 for coffee, and then having things DoorDashed. And back to something you said a second ago, and this is not me trying to be obstinate or anything, but let's face the reality that inflation and cost of living have never really kept up with each other. That's why we had roommates and all the other cost saving measures we had in our teens and 20s.
That and yeah, that's another thing. My niece, the one that wants the princess phone, she never had a roommate. She, my sister actually paid for her to have an apartment, paid the all of the bills for the apartment and everything. My niece just didn't feel comfortable having a roommate. Now, it's not that she didn't try. She had one roommate, they didn't get along. She had another roommate, they didn't get along. And I started seeing a pattern here. It wasn't that the roommates were having she was the one that was the issue. It wasn't the roommates. Because when she was interviewing the third one, she was telling her, "Well, this is what I expect." Not what where can we meet in the middle? It was what I expect from you. And I'm like, that's not fair. I mean, she's got expectations too. And she was not meeting them. And I think that's where the whole issue was. And so it was, you know, she is the type that has door dashed. She actually does it at least 3 times a week and wonders why she can't make enough money to actually move out of the house and get an apartment on her own. And I was like, if you were to like stop the delivery options, you would actually be able to save up for a few months and have enough to have first and last month's rent of an apartment. And she was like, yeah, but it's so convenient. And that's the other thing. This entire generation, and millennials included, Gen Z, Gen X to a certain extent, it's all the instant gratification. And that has done a lot of damage because you and I, when we still remember dial up, okay? We still remember
You've
waiting.
got mail.
I remember the whole dial up and waiting to connect, and that screechy noise that it made and everything. And God forbid somebody call, because that would bump you off the internet, but the call was more important, right? And um I mean, they have no concept of what that patience. I When dial up first came out, I was agog. I was like, holy crap, we can get on the internet that quickly. 5 minutes. And for me, 5 minutes was like, wow, that's fast. If kids don't get on within 5 nanoseconds, they freak out. I've seen it. I've seen it with my niece. She yelled, "Mom, I cannot connect. Is something wrong with the Wi-Fi?" My sister at the time was actually in the process of changing the Wi-Fi password. She changes it every 3 months or something. And she just comes downstairs like, "I can't connect." And I'm like, calm down. Your mom's changing the password. But I think that also has a lot to do with, that whole instant gratification, the whole being used to Starbucks being a normal thing. Um, those kind of things are just, you and I would think, That's not normal. That's bougie. That's upper crust. That's a whole new level." I think the last time I was at a Starbucks, the only reason I was at a Starbucks, flying to I was flying to CPAC, and I spent the night at the Dallas airport because it had iced over. And so Starbucks was the first thing that opened that morning at 5 o'clock. So I walked down there and I got in line, and I said, what I said, "I just need a regular coffee with sugar and cream." And they said, "Americano with I said, "No, I don't want an Americano. This is what I want." Because the Americano is different. It- It's the Italian version.
Oh yeah.
And so I I told her, I said, "Okay, just give me that one in this size." And I pointed. And she says, "Do you want a venti?" I said, "I don't know what your sizes are. I really don't know. I just need a medium, whatever your equivalent to medium is." And the lady behind me, "Ah, yeah, that's a venti," or whatever it was. I don't even remember. I mean, she's like exasperated. And I'm like, this is the only place I can get coffee. I need to be awake because, and sure enough, they changed my flight like twice before I finally got
Yeah,
on a plane to get to Orlando. But that was the last time I've been to Starbucks. And the time before that, I can't even remember.
I went to Starbucks like 3 times in my entire life, and every time everything tasted burnt, and I'm just like, this is not how coffee is supposed to taste, and everybody bought it, and I'm actually grumbling about it to my first wife at the time, because she was like, because this is when Starbucks was fairly new. She was like, we should try this place. I hear they have really good coffee, and I get what's supposed to be one of their better coffees, and I'm like, this tastes like somebody burnt it, and then I heard people around me were like, oh, I can't believe you just said that. This coffee's awesome. I'm like, you people have no taste buds. But yeah, since you mentioned AO Hell, for anybody who misses that experience, you can look at the screen right now. Because, yeah, anybody remember when it took literally hours to download anything? Anyway.
Oh, I remember. I think it was my niece had to. No, it was my nephew. He was 11, and he had to download something off of the internet, some photo or something for because it was going to be like the cover paper for a paper that he was doing for class, 6th grade, and it took it took like an hour to download and print. And my sister called my mom and said, please don't call for the next hour. She called everybody, don't call for the next hour and a half, because we're doing something with a computer, blah 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 blah. And it was trauma. It was complete trauma. And we were thankful for the trauma.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh my goodness, it was funny. But yeah, we had the pudding pops, remember those?
Dude, I was actually looking for some of those the other day. You can't even find them anymore. I mean, look, I get it. The spokesperson was a skis. Did we have to get rid of the pudding pops, though? Dang.
No, those
I
were
like
great,
them.
and I miss them too. I miss creamsicles. Those were great.
I'll be
Ah,
honest, those were never really my thing.
they were my thing. I loved those things. I would die happy. I would die happy. But yeah, going back to the whole oatmeal cream pie. Yeah, the giant ones,
Yeah.
those were the original size, people. Those
Yeah,
were the original size.
that's how they used to be. Because I remember even watching, even my dad, because my dad tried to convince me when I was, as I got older. No, you're just bigger than you were before. I was like, Dad, I remember seeing you hold the damn things, and they were as big as your hand. They were as big as my face when I was a kid. And then they put these ones out, and I'm like, yeah, now see, this is how now. If you scale it back to me being 6 years old, that would have been about as big as my face, just like I said. You lying bastards. Lying bastards. But yeah, I mean, it's like everything else. Like you buy a bag of chips now and it's 3/4 air, and it's to help with contents during shipping. Then charge me 3/4 less of the price. Shit.
Yeah, that's I end up making my own now. I mean, it's to the point where what is even the point of buying a bag of chips just for the air? I remember when the Lays, they were pretty full, and the way that they were displayed at the store, they were like in a line, nothing behind them, because you didn't want to squish them because they were that full. So
Yeah,
they
have
were,
you
side
ever
to side.
noticed that their entire thing is, it's packed full of air for shipping and it helps you not have broken chips, etc. And there's more broken chips at the bottom of these supposed prepped for shipping bags than there ever were in the more full bags.
Yep.
Bastards.
They're rooking you. They're rooking you.
Bastards.
Let's see. What else do I miss? Man, I miss a lot of stuff.
I miss
I did
actual
not,
music.
huh?
I miss actual music because the modern stuff, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Angie has the morning thread, post a TV show or song. Today I posted Kolchak, the Night Stalker, and I had so many people say, I loved that show. That was such a great show. That needs to make a comeback. It actually had a comeback. And Darren McGavin had passed away when it was remade, but they used old footage to include him in it. I remember that. And it lasted only a few episodes. It didn't last very long. But I think Kolchak, the Night Stalker, would be such a cool reboot. But what's going to happen? The same thing that happened with Twilight Zone when it was rebooted by what's his name? Peele? Was it Jordan Peele?
I think it's Jordan Peele. I think.
Yeah, it was all politics. And it was all political, and it wasn't fun anymore. And admittedly, Twilight Zone wasn't the kind of fun that, haha, it was just that interesting supernatural what if kind of fun. I mean, the classic episodes, when you look at old Twilight Zone, Night Gallery, Outer Limits, when they brought it back in the 80s, they kind of kept to the same format. That same otherworldly type of fun. But this one, when he brought it back, it was just, I mean, I tried 2 episodes and I was like, this is not Twilight Zone anymore. It was completely different. So, and that's something I do miss. I miss those kind of shows where it made you think. And going back to the whole book situation, there are very few books written nowadays that actually make you think and stay with you. And I'm on the Spirited Books podcast. We review books all the time. I don't want to get into what happened in October, but there was one book that I
Aw.
reviewed when I got back from being with my daughter, and it was called A Short Stay in Hell. And that book is still with me. Okay. I think about that every single day. It's a very short book, but those kind of books are not written anymore. They're not. And um, it just makes you think about the possibility of what happens after we die. What is left? How long is eternity? Those kind of things. And it wasn't traumatic, but I mean, when I finished the book, I put it down and I just sat there, and for an entire hour and a half, I just sat there thinking about what I had just read. My daughter asked me like 3 questions, and I had no idea what she asked me, and she just left me alone after that. And then when I finally got up, she was like, "Can you talk now?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, I was thinking about the book." And she asked me, "Why were you thinking about the book?" And I said, "That book, that is the kind of book that's going to stay with you." And I said, it doesn't matter what your religion is. If you believe, if you don't believe, it's going to stay with you. And so you know, almost all of the books that I've read for Spirited Books so far, that is the one that I recommend for everybody. There are some that I recommend for women. There's some that I recommend for men. There's some that I recommend for teens. There's some that I recommend for, people who don't ever want to think, they just want brain candy, that kind of thing. But this one I recommend for everybody. So many few books are written so that everybody, regardless of perspective, can enjoy and think about. This was one of them. And you don't get that a lot anymore. You used to get it all the time back in the 70s, in the 60s, in the 80s. You would get literature that actually made you stop and think. There was literature out there that was breaking ceilings, like the Valley of the Dolls. Nobody remembers. Everybody remembers. Oh, there was a movie called Valley of the Dolls. Yeah, yeah. But there was a book, and when you read the book, you realize dolls are drugs. Okay, so you're like, and you're reading this, and that's the kind of stuff that was wild and incredible that it was written back then. You don't find that now. And I miss that kind of literature. And yeah, some people can call it smutty. I mean, Jacqueline Suzanne was one. Jackie Collins, oh my goodness, the queen of the 80s, drama. Um, there were a lot, but those kind of books written now, I don't think that would get published. Most people, would say it's not correct enough. It's not it's not with the current ideology. It's not politically correct. Blah blah blah. All these things. I mean, y'all remember when A Million Little Pieces came out and Oprah was raving about this book, and then we found out that it was all made up, and you know that put the publisher in a really bad position. But that kind of stuff is what we get now. We get fiction dressed up as truth, and that's unfortunate. And I know I totally sidebar this entire conversation because it has nothing to do with growing up, but in a way it does, because yeah, I remember all the, I mean, honest to God, we were in college and I could not wait for the next Jude Devereaux book to come out. I was in love with all of her works. I can tell you right now, I still have at least 18 of her books on my bookshelf because I adore them. She wrote the definitive love story of the 80s. It's called A Knight in Shining Armor. I kid you not. Women, if you're listening to me and have not read this book, go find it. Jude Devereaux, A Knight in Shining Armor. But that kind of book doesn't get written anymore. Even if you go and go get Harlequin romances, which I am notorious for getting over at the thrift store, the newer stuff is like, this is boring. There's no drama, you know, and there's sex. Admittedly, yes.
Hello? Hello?
I know that the 80s had sex in their books too, but Harlequin romances seldom did. Okay. They were more pure. All right. So it was kind of like a shock to me that it's like, oh my God, they're sleeping together. I can't read this. It's just like, what? You read that shit all the time. I was like, yeah, but not in a Harlequin. I got standards. Put it back.
So, just to get us at least a little bit back towards the topic for the last few minutes, because I saw this the other day and I got excited. Then I realized that none of them are near me. So, there's a guy who owns like 100 Pizza Huts, and apparently, Pizza Hut, for anybody who doesn't know, has been really struggling.
Mhm.
So, he's bringing back old school Pizza Hut, red
Oh
cups
yeah.
and all. Yeah. So, as
I
far he's trying to revive the old classic Pizza Hut dining experience with the red roofs, the checkered tablecloths, vinyl booths, the lamps, salad bars, red plastic cups, and even Pac-Man machines, which sounds really, really great. But unless you're bringing back the really good caramelized pan pizza, you still aren't going to keep me for very long. I'm just,
Yeah, no, that's their get. That was their thing. That was their get. And I'm old enough to remember when the pan pizza, the personal pan pizza came out. You could not get a seat at Pizza Hut in my hometown because it was that popular. And of course, they didn't take reservations. What? It's Pizza Hut. So unless you were
yeah,
there
you'd be like,
early, like at
you're like,
10:30 when they opened, so that you could get, lunch or whatever, you weren't gonna get one. But that one in my hometown, by the way, it's still the same shape. They never because it's in my hometown, they were gonna shut it down. They had thought about redoing the interior and modernizing it and everything, but they didn't have the money. It was gonna shut down. And then guess who discovered it? The millennials discovered it, and it became a hangout from college kids. And then the high school came back in the same area. And I say the same area because the Pizza Hut is right by the um, football stadium. which is just down the road on the other side from the high school. That high school became a middle school, but now it's back to being a high school. So now, because it's back to being a high school, all of the football players go to the Pizza Hut because it's an easy walk. And so that Pizza Hut never got redone. No, it's still the old classic Pizza Hut, and people love it. So now it's back again. You can't get a seat in there, but they don't have that caramelized. You're right. That caramelization was it. That was awesome.
I mean, I remember the first time I was ever invited to a birthday party at a Pizza Hut, and it was a kid's birthday party, so we all got the individual pan pizzas, and that was the year they came out. And then the next year, I go to school, and they started this program where for every so many books you read, you got a coupon for a free Pizza Hut pan pizza. I was a reading book mofo. I ain't gonna lie. I actually almost got an award for the number of books I read that year just to get the pizza coupons. Almost. I missed it by like 20 books because somebody else read even more than me.
Oh, that's
And it
too
was a lot
bad.
because it was, for the person who reads the most books, not only will you get this award, and I don't think it was a year's worth of them, but I think they even got like another 6 months worth of coupons for the damn thing, which is another reason why I wanted to get it. But yeah. Anyway, you got like one a week for 6 months, and they awarded it, of course, you got it right at the end of the school year. So you had the guy who won got a free Pizza Hut, personal pan pizza for the entirety one time a week for summer. Bastard. Bastard. With some left over. Okay, so something that's kind of sort of tying back to childhood a little bit, that is also a recent story. Has anybody else figured out that the 4 most reported alien beings in this reports are the same ones that have been all over Hollywood now since we were kids?
Oh yeah, I noticed.
Yeah, I mean, just point that out. Point that out. Except for the Nordic guys, I don't know. They're supposedly like 7 foot tall humanoids, and I'm like, why are they named Nordic? That seems a little on the nose. Because don't we have Nordic people here?
Yes.
Is that a hint? Is that a hint? I feel like that's a hint.
Oh, that's another thing that I miss. UFOs.
Yeah, can we go back to calling them that
can
again?
We go back to that? Yeah, because that was classic. I like the old classics of the UFO. I like the saucer ships. I like those things. Bring that back. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It got to return. Little Green Men got to return. But no,
Yeah,
I can't believe they changed the UFO.
Yeah, I didn't realize Space Ghost Coast to Coast was an alien instruction manual. Just saying. I didn't realize. Just saying.
No lie detected. That's right.
Oh
man. So yeah, I miss there's a lot of stuff. I mean, food wise, that we miss. I miss the A&W drive-ins. I know there's still a few, but
like A&W still exists, but it's not anything like it was before. I remember because there was one right down the street from my aunt's house, and I would go to my aunt's house a lot in the summer, and she would take me to A&W, and I would get one of their little kids cheeseburgers, and then you get the little kids root beer in the small mug that you got to keep, but it was still frozen like the rest of them. So for like the first 5 minutes you sipped on it, it was like the best tasting thing ever. And yeah, those were the days, man.
I think
I miss Tang too.
And Orty, yes, I'll get there sometime this year. I'm sorry, I've had a lot on my plate. I have not gone to their Wiener Schnitzel yet. Apparently, there's still one here, close enough for me to drive on a day trip. I think the only A&W drive-in. No, it's gone. It's gone. But a lot of them in Texas are now gone. I think it's only a northern thing now, which is sad.
I mean, there's like A&W restaurants now, but there's none of the drive-ins anywhere around here.
No.
And it's not the same. That's like they brought Dairy Queen back recently, and now it's a Dairy Queen Grill and Chill. And I'm like, it was Brazier's when I was a kid, and the food was better. I don't know. Everybody's gone to this whole, everything has to be flame broiled thing, and I'm just like, hey, it
Not
was
here.
awesome until everybody started doing it.
Yeah,
But
not
yeah.
here. The Dairy Queen here has been, owned by the same lady who started working there when she was in high school, and then she left for college. When she came back, she went back to work, and then eventually became manager, and eventually bought it. So it's affiliated with Dairy Queen, but she has made sure not to change anything. But also because she is a very deeply Christian woman, she closes it on Sundays, and she closes it early on Wednesdays so that she can um, attend Bible study. So there are people, I kid you not, I live in a town of 3,800 people. There are people that come from an hour and a half away to come to this Dairy Queen because it's still the same way of making the burgers on that greasy grill and everything. It has never been updated. It is very dated, and everybody loves it. And she is now retiring, so she's going to be handing it over to somebody else. It's in the contract that it cannot be changed.
Well,
And
yeah.
the person taking it over is like, they worked there when they were in high school. They left for college, came back and worked there, while they were looking for work or whatever. And now they want to, buy the Dairy Queen, and that is in the contract. It cannot be changed. The hours cannot be changed, even though the the possibility of it being open on Wednesday nights a little later is there, but I doubt that I think they're going to just stick to what works. You know what I mean? And that is
Yeah.
something that I have found here in this side of Texas, that if it's not broken, nobody's going to fix it. So, you know, things stay the way they are, which is nice. I If I feel like a dilly bar, I know where to get one. And that was another thing that I noticed had changed. Um, with the some of the Dairy Queens back home, but this one still has the free dilly bar with, this thing or whatever, and so I take advantage of it because it's a dilly bar. It's ice cream, and I love
Yeah.
ice cream.
One thing that I loved when I was a kid with Dairy Queen was because, like I said, I used to spend summers at my grandpa's body shop a lot, and my dad we were always grabbing like something quick for breakfast on the way in, and then we'd usually eat at a Greasy Spoon or something if we didn't hit a Sonic for lunch. Well, the one thing that I loved about Dairy Queen, because they had breakfast back then too. They had this Eggwich sandwich thing, which back then McDonald's only had the regular Egg McMuffin, and I didn't really like it because one, they wouldn't take the egg off, so you lost most of the cheese, and I wasn't a big fan of eggs back then. But Dairy Queen had an Eggwich, which was a bigger sandwich, but it had the same kind of, muffin style stuff, but different shape. Had sausage, had cheese. They would take the egg off, and I would get that about 2 or 3 times a week. Like, can we go to Dairy Queen for breakfast, please? Because I loved it because it was sausage, cheese, and an Egg McMuffin. And it was on an English muffin kind of thing, and it was amazing. And then the Dairy Queen down the street from us closed when I was a kid, and I was really, really mad.
Well, guess what time it is? We need to
I
run.
know. We gotta go because
Yeah.
there's something coming on behind us.
Yeah, so we're just gonna
I
say
know.
good night because y'all know where to find us. So
We'll
we'll
if you don't
see.
know where to find us by now, you should at least be stalking her. I don't, not me, but her. You should at least know where she's at. Bye,
All
everybody.
right.
Hang
Thanks
out
for joining us,
Hang out for the Curse of Snuffleupagus coming up next. Wait, I mean Stephanaros.
Stephanos.